Midoriya stood on the beach, cracking his knuckles. It was Sunday, meaning he had the entire day to test his transformations. All Might, in his normal form, stood nearby, observing. Midoriya, wearing his green jumpsuit, met All Might's gaze, and the pro hero gave a nod. Izuku nodded back. All right, today we need to figure out what these forms can do. He pressed the button on the Omnitrix, and the dial popped up, displaying a holographic silhouette. With determination, Midoriya slammed down on the Omnitrix, feeling the rush of energy as he was engulfed in a bright green flash. As the light faded, All Might watched closely and saw a Tetramand, All Might mused. Whoa, forearms! Izuku exclaimed, staring at his transformed body. A bit unoriginal for a name, but if you're happy with it. Huh? Oh no, but I guess it'll do, Izuku replied, still marveling at his massive muscles. He flexed, taking in his new towering physique. All Might, who was normally the largest presence in the room, looked small by comparison. Judging by his height, Izuku estimated he now stood about 12 feet tall. He could feel raw power coursing through him, stronger than anything he'd ever felt before. This form, it's like you, All Might, maybe even stronger, Forearms muttered, clenching his massive fists. He crouched down, preparing to leap. Sensing what was coming, All Might quickly called out a warning. Hey kid, be careful. Stay within the beach's limits, all right? Forearms gave a quick nod, then launched himself into the air with an explosive shockwave, sending nearby trash flying. All Might had to brace himself as the powerful leap reverberated through the ground. The alien soared through the air, crashing down with a thunderous boom on the far side of the beach. The impact sent a massive cloud of sand and debris flying, scattering the trash in all directions. Whoa! All Might whispered, his eyes wide in awe. All Might soon ran down, panting heavily in his regular form. Young Midoriya, huff. Are you... puff. All right? Yeah, I'm more than okay, Midoriya exclaimed, excitement in his voice as he spotted a truck buried in the trash pile. Without hesitation, he lifted it over his head with ease. This feels awesome. We should avoid using forearms for cleaning the beach, All Might advised. Huh? Why not? I could clean it all up in minutes. And that's the problem, All Might responded with a serious tone. Your transformation is tied to you, but forearms is too strong. You won't build endurance or tear muscle fibers for growth. This form is better suited for combat. Izuku gulped at the sound of that last word. Combat? Who will be teaching me? All Might grinned, then suddenly with booming laughter that echoed across the beach, he transformed into his muscular form. The sheer presence of the towering hero left Forearms stunned. All Might cracked his knuckles. Now, young Midoriya, let's see what you can do. Put 'em up. Forearms hesitated, raising all four hands, still clearly nervous. Despite the massive muscles, he was still young Izuku inside, trembling slightly. All Might took a step forward, arms raised, ready for battle. Listen carefully, All Might instructed, his voice calm but firm. First, take a deep breath. When facing an opponent, you can't show fear. Stand tall, breathe slow, and stay relaxed. Forearms closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, then exhaling slowly. As he did, the tremor in his hands started to fade. His massive fists clenched as he steadied himself, and when he opened his eyes, the fear was gone. All Might's grin widened. Good. Now, don't let adrenaline overwhelm you. Keep your hips square to your opponent. Let them make the first move. Forearms hesitated, raising all four hands, still clearly nervous. Despite the massive muscles, he was still young Midoriya inside, trembling slightly. All Might took a step forward, arms raised, ready for battle. Listen carefully, All Might instructed, his voice calm but firm. First, take a deep breath. When facing an opponent, you can't show fear. Stand tall, breathe slow, and stay relaxed. Forearms closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, then exhaling slowly. As he did, the tremor in his hands started to fade. His massive fists clenched as he steadied himself, and when he opened his eyes, the fear was gone. All Might's grin widened. Good. Now don't let adrenaline overwhelm you. Keep your hips square to your opponent. Let them make the first move. All Might launched a punch towards the alien with surprising speed. Instinctively, Four Arms dodged, reacting faster than he expected. All Might's eyes widened as Four Arms countered, cocking his fist back and landing a solid punch to All Might's face, sending him stumbling back in surprise. All Might rubbed his chin, still smiling. Did I just land a hit on All Might? All Might, chuckling, rubbed the spot where the alien's punch connected. The force was impressive, a testament to the alien's strength. Yes, you did, All Might said, grinning. Now let's see if you can take a punch. With a burst of speed, All Might closed the distance and unleashed a powerful blow, utilizing 35% of One for All's power. The punch generated a shockwave, sending nearby trash flying. Four Arms braced himself, arms raised in a shield position. The impact was immense, but to both All Might's and Izuku's surprise, Four Arms didn't budge. I took a punch from All Might? Four Arms exclaimed, his body shaking. Emboldened, Four Arms used his strength to push All Might back, creating some distance. He adopted a fighting stance, though his inexperience was evident. I'll admit, you're pretty strong, but All Might declared before grinning. In an instant, All Might bridged the distance, his fist cocked back and ready to strike. Four Arms didn't have time to react. But you lack experience. The punch crashed into Four Arms' stomach like a freight train, forcing the air from his lungs. Saliva sprayed from his mouth as he clutched his abdomen, his eyes bulging. Four Arms struggled to rise, but All Might's swift combos sent him crashing back down. A devastating hook connected with Four Arms' jaw, followed by a crushing uppercut that sent him soaring. All Might's final blow, a mighty punch to the chest, launched Four Arms across the beach, sending trash scattering everywhere. The force of the impact created a shockwave, rattling nearby debris. The Omnitrix flashed green before engulfing Izuku in a brilliant emerald light, reverting him to his human form. All Might offered a nod of approval. Impressive, young Midoriya. You lasted longer than most foes. Izuku groaned, tenderly clutching his stomach. Thanks, All Might. Honored. All Might's grin widened. Rest up, 3 down. We've got 7 transformations left to test. Young Midoriya. Ah ha. Izuku winced, foreboding settling in. Something tells me today is going to hurt. A few minutes later, Midoriya was reviewing his new plan to master One for All and his training schedule for the next 7 months. He was munching on a dumpling when he suddenly heard the familiar beep of the Omnitrix. Stretching his arms, he called out, All Might! I'm ready! As he began dialing the Omnitrix, he skipped past the aliens he had already transformed into, finally slamming down on the dial. In a burst of green light, he transformed. It seems I'm a seafood platter, Midoriya said, looking down at his new form. All Might groaned in annoyance as he recognized the transformation. Cerebro-crustacean? They're the most condescending aliens I've ever met, especially that Dr. Psychobos. Hopefully that attitude isn't in the DNA. Izuku, adjusting to his new form, replied, and apparently I possess a highly advanced intellect. Ergo, I should assign this new life form a more fitting name. How about Brainstorm? Brainstorm began pacing around as electricity crackled from his brain, sending sparks to the papers Midoriya had been reading. They floated into the air, dancing with arcs of energy around him. Interesting. I'll need to make some adjustments to address your glaring flaws. First, instead of the usual exercises like lifting heavy weights or running, we should focus on improving my endurance. My transformations require stamina, and enhancing my endurance will allow me to maintain these forms for extended periods. All Might couldn't help but nod in agreement, even if the alien's condescending tone grated on him. We should also prioritize increasing my durability and muscle density. This will acclimate me to the overwhelming power of One for All. Based on my calculations, with this approach, I can optimize my readiness to receive your quirk 2 months before the entrance exam. During that time, I'll also refine my ability to utilize One for All when I revert to my human form. All Might grinned at the crab-like alien, who was now meticulously adjusting the plan with a pen. But then, Brainstorm's expression shifted to one of annoyance. All Might. The pro-hero suddenly felt like a student being summoned to the principal's office. Yes? Your original plan was for me to receive One for All in 10 months, am I correct? Yes. Judging by these adjustments, you intended to grant me One for All on the day of the entrance exam, correct? All Might gulped. Well, yes. So, You were planning to give me a quirk without any combat training? Analyzing the risks involved, if I were to use your power without proper preparation, the resultant consequences could lead to catastrophic injuries, including bone fractures, before the exam even begins. I trust I'm mistaken because such oversight would indicate a severe lack of foresight. I mean, you would have done fine. Annoyed, Brainstorm opened his brain, unleashing a concentrated blast of electricity toward All Might, who twitched in pain. As the sun began to set, a flash of green light illuminated the beach, revealing Midoriya lying on the ground, breathing heavily and panting from exhaustion. Due to his lack of knowledge about the Omnitrix, the only way he could transform back to normal was by completely exhausting himself, which he had done through all the transformations. The beach was littered with pale crystals pierced into the sand, while some appliances lay melted and covered in green slime. Others were ensnared in a web-like substance, and black scorch marks dotted the sand, remnants of lightning strikes. All Might stood nearby, covered in scorch marks, his clothing shredded and splattered with green goo. He had reverted to his normal form as well. Seems we've figured out what all your transformations can do, All Might said, breathing heavily. I'll try to allocate a day for each of the transformations for you to work on. Exhausted, Midoriya could only manage a weak thumbs up. You should probably avoid transforming, especially if you don't know how to turn back. You don't want to show up to class as Ghost Freak, All Might advised. Midoriya nodded but turned to All Might with a concerned expression at the mention of Ghost Freak. Speaking of Ghost Freak, it feels strange turning into him. How so? All Might asked, curious. Well, with all my transformations, it feels like it's me, but I'm also someone else, like how some pros say wearing a mask makes them feel like a different person. All Might nodded. Yes, you do seem to get a bit of a confidence boost. Not by much, but it's noticeable. Brainstorm, however, makes you come off as a condescending... Midoriya groaned in embarrassment. I said I was sorry. It's fine, but go on, All Might encouraged. But with Ghost Freak, it feels like I'm actually someone else, like I'm hijacking someone else's body, and he doesn't like it. A moment of silence hung in the air, broken only by All Might's shivering. Okay, kid, that was terrifying, but I doubt you need to worry about it for now. Midoriya nodded uncertainly just as his phone rang. He picked it up and answered, Hey, Mom. Yeah. I'll be home soon. Bye. Love you too. As Izuku headed home for the day, he walked with heavy eyelids, struggling to keep himself awake as yawns escaped him. When he finally returned home, he could barely muster the energy to plop down onto his bed, instantly passing out from exhaustion. Honey, wake up! You're going to be late for school! Midoriya groaned, turning from side to side in his bed before finally waking up. He resigned himself to another day of being treated like a freak, the whispers about him being quirkless echoing in his mind. Then, a realization dawned on him. Wait, I have a quirk. That means... Midoriya halted that train of thought. Of course, he wanted to show everyone that the useless Deku, a nickname that had brought him so much pain, wasn't so useless after all, but it wouldn't be right. Just because I have a quirk doesn't mean I have to be like Kachan and flaunt my powers around. I have nothing to prove. And Kevin's status has been a good deterrent for bullies. As Midoriya put on his uniform, he made sure to hide the Omnitrix under his sleeve. After a quick breakfast and a kiss on his mother's cheek, he heard the familiar horn of a car. Spotting Kevin in his muscle car, he waved back. Wait, I have a quirk. That means... Midoriya halted that train of thought. Of course, he wanted to show everyone that the useless Deku, a nickname that had brought him so much pain, wasn't so useless after all, but it wouldn't be right. Just because I have a quirk doesn't mean I have to be like Kachan and flaunt my powers around. I have nothing to prove. And Kevin's status has been a good deterrent for bullies. As Midoriya put on his uniform, he made sure to hide the Omnitrix under his sleeve. After a quick breakfast and a kiss on his mother's cheek, he heard the familiar horn of a car. Spotting Kevin in his muscle car, he waved back. What are you waiting for? Let's go! Kevin shouted as Midoriya hopped into the car, hesitating for just a moment, knowing Kevin drove like a maniac. After putting on his seatbelt, the belt gave a shaky thumbs up. As they sped off, Kevin glanced at the strange-looking watch on Midoriya's wrist. Izuku? Hmm? What's up with that watch? It looks super weird. Midoriya's heart raced as he tried to hide the Omnitrix, earning a suspicious stare from Kevin. I like it. I got it 2 days ago. Is that weird? Yeah, like super weird, but that suits you perfectly. Super weird, Kevin replied with a chuckle. Midoriya laughed nervously, but Kevin's probing didn't stop. He noted the symbol on the watch, but the conversation soon shifted as they arrived at school. As they walked through the halls, the boys ignored the stares and whispers from the other students. They made their way to the lockers, but Kevin's expression darkened when he saw Izuku's locker. It was a mess of vandalism, covered in cruel messages scrawled in bright red and black marker. "Quirkless freak!" one message screamed. "You'll never be a hero," another taunted. The locker bore the marks of countless insults, the metal surface scratched and dented as if it were a target for all the pent-up aggression of the students around them. Midoriya's heart sank as he took in the hurtful words. For a brief moment, he felt the sting of their cruelty. It was a familiar pain. But then, a thought pierced through the fog of negativity. A memory of the one person who truly believed in him. All Might, he whispered to himself, his thoughts turning to the hero who had told him he could be great. That belief rekindled a flicker of determination within him. Kevin's fists clenched in anger, ready to knock some heads, but Izuku seemed to shake off the pain. He simply grabbed some books, a newfound resolve strengthening his posture as he made his way to class. When he opened the classroom door, a hush fell over the room. Students glanced at him, some surprised by his lack of reaction, while others pointed and jeered, "Quirkless loser!" Usually such taunts would draw a painful reaction from him, a forced laugh, a pained joke, or a feigned indifference. Everyone could see the tears he tried to hide, but today was different. This time, he straightened his shoulders and faced the insults head-on, as if the words bounced off him. "All Might thinks I can be a hero. His opinion means more to me than them." Kevin just smiled. "You see that, losers? You can try to kick him down, but you'll never keep him down." The group of students glared in frustration before walking away. Midoriya waved goodbye to his friend and made his way back to class. As the school day came to an end, Izuku walked out of the building. "Kevin said we would meet at his car." He looked around, feeling confusion and worry when he spotted a group of students gathered around Kevin's car. They wore malicious grins. "So this is Levin's car?" "Yeah, that freak Levin. You know he keeps defending that useless Deku. We can't break him, but how about we break his car?" "Satoru is distracting Levin, so we have plenty of time to mess it up." "Leave it alone," Izuku said, his legs trembling. The group turned to him and they all burst into laughter. "As I was saying, let's mess this thing up." "If you don't leave, I'll stop you myself." The group laughed even harder, and one of the bullies punched him in the face, sending him crashing to the ground. The bully grabbed him by the collar and pulled him close. "Listen here, Deku. Stay out of my way or I'll hurt you worse than Bakugo could ever dream." Midoriya felt a surge of determination and grabbed the bully's arm. "I said leave it alone!" Everyone was surprised to see Izuku stand up for himself, and they had never witnessed that look in his eyes before. The thug clenched his teeth and punched him again, throwing him aside like trash. "And what are you going to do about it, you quirkless loser?" Then Izuku heard the Omnitrix beep, almost as if it was reminding him of his options. He quickly glanced at the group before running away to find a hiding spot. The bullies watched him flee, then turned to each other and laughed loudly. "What a loser." The onlookers joined in the laughter, but Izuku wasn't running out of fear. He was searching for a place to transform. He eventually found a secluded spot where he could hide and prepare for what came next. "Okay, Izuku, just go ghost freak and scare the pants off them." Izuku gave a shaky smile, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves as he pressed the button on the Omnitrix. A holographic figure of Heat Blast appeared before scrolling through the options, stopping at the Spectre. "All right, I'm just going to get them away from Kevin's car. He's done so much for me that I owe him this." Izuku gulped, then slammed down on the Omnitrix. In a flash of green light, he transformed but found himself not as Ghost Freak. Fasttrack? He hugged the corner, his heart racing as he watched the boys preparing to vandalize the car. "It's hero time," Fasttrack declared before darting out of the corner like a bullet, a blue blur shooting past. "Oh man, Deku, never! Gak!" one of the bullies was suddenly punched in the face, sent staggering back as fasttrack weaved through the group with incredible speed. Kevin emerged from the school, a smile spreading across his face as he witnessed the 6 thugs being overwhelmed by the rapid movement of the blue figure. No one could track fasttrack's swift strikes, which landed with a heavy impact that sent several bullies tumbling to the ground. "What are you?" one of the thugs shouted in confusion. In a flash, fasttrack struck another thug, sending him crashing into his friends and knocking them down like bowling pins. The force of the impacts left them reeling and disoriented. Fasttrack zipped around, delivering quick jabs and kicks that sent the bullies sprawling. By the time he stopped, the thugs were left tangled together on the ground, utterly humiliated. Fasttrack crashed down in a rather ungraceful manner but quickly stood up, pretending nothing had happened. "Endeavor-themed underwear? Really?" he quipped, glancing at the bullies who were now too embarrassed to respond. Everyone stared at the blue and black creature in disbelief. Kevin noticed the symbol on its chest and immediately had questions, but for now, he felt a sense of relief as the thugs ran away, humiliated, while laughter erupted from the onlookers. "Hey!" Kevin called out. Fasttrack turned, panic flashing across his face as he heard Kevin's voice. He gave a shy wave before darting away, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Kevin stood there, confused, trying to process everything that had just happened. Fasttrack zoomed through the streets at an incredible speed, struggling to control his momentum as he tried to slow down. A girl with earphone jacks as earlobes was walking home, about to catch the train when a sudden gust of wind rushed past her, blowing her hair and jacket slightly. Surprised, she looked around but saw nothing. "What was that?" she muttered, confused. Nearby, a guy with spiky blonde hair and a tail was about to enter a gym to train for the UA entrance exam. As he glanced down the street, he was surprised to see a blue and black blur racing past. "Whoa, that guy's fast! I didn't even see him!" A girl with an unexpressive face, dressed in her school uniform with black hair, was walking home as well. She suddenly felt a gust of wind lift her skirt, which she quickly pressed down. Assuming it was just a random breeze, she continued walking without a second thought. Above the city, a man with red wings soared through the sky, his feathers assisting in a few rescue efforts. For a moment, he felt something moving at incredible speeds. As he looked down, he caught a glimpse of a streak of blue dashing through the streets. He smiled, impressed by the speedster below. Meanwhile, a man in white armor was tying up some thugs with his teammates. "All right, let's wait for the police to handle these guys." Suddenly, they all felt a powerful gust of wind rush by, nearly knocking off the armored man's helmet. "Whoa, whoever that is, they're fast." He grinned and adjusted his helmet before taking off, his engine roaring in an attempt to match the mysterious speedster. Fasttrack, however, wasn't doing as well as he hoped. "Okay, Izuku, let's stop," he muttered to himself. But as he tried to slow down, he lost control and crashed straight into a pile of trash cans, sending debris everywhere. Dazed, he lay there for a moment, swirls in his eyes. As he attempted to stand up, a voice called out, "You okay?" Fasttrack looked up, blinking to clear his vision. Standing above him was an armored man, one he quickly recognized. "Whoa! Ingenium!" Fasttrack exclaimed, his excitement barely contained. Ingenium chuckled, seeing the awe in the blue cat-like figure's eyes. "I take it you've heard of me?" "Oh, of course I have. You're part of the Ida Family Hero Agency. They're one of the oldest hero agencies around, with most members being heroes for generations." Ingenium chuckled. "Guess I don't need an introduction." Excitement quickly turned to worry for Fasttrack. "ACK, wait, you're not here to arrest me, are you?" Ingenium waved it off with a laugh. No, nothing like that. But crashing into trash bins isn't exactly the smoothest move, is it?" Fasttrack scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Yeah. Stopping isn't my strong suit right now." I see," Ingenium nodded thoughtfully. "How about some help from a fellow speedster?" Fasttrack's eyes lit up with excitement. "I'd be honored." But then he hesitated. "Wait, aren't you super busy though?" Ingenium smiled reassuringly. "You can never be too busy to help someone in need. Plus, you don't want to crash into more trash bags, do you?" "No, not really," Fasttrack replied, embarrassed. "All right. When stopping at high speeds, especially for speedsters like us, it's important to grind to a stop. Keep your feet at a steady angle as you slow down. The friction from your feet will help bring you to a stop gradually. Just don't push your feet too close together, or you'll risk twisting an ankle. Fasttrack nodded rapidly, taking in every word before assuming a runner's stance. Ingenium watched as the blue blur sped off again, making sure to follow closely to assist if needed. Onlookers were amazed as they watched the two speedsters zoom down the street. "Grind to a stop!" Ingenium called out. Fasttrack grinned, focusing on keeping his feet steady. He skidded to a halt, coming to a smooth stop down the street. Panting, he beamed. "I did it!" Ingenium, thoroughly impressed, ran up to him. "That was amazing. Most speedsters don't pick it up that fast." Fasttrack bowed deeply. "Thank you. This means so much to me. With this speed, I'll definitely ace the entrance exam for UA." "UA? How old are you?" Ingenium asked, tilting his head. "Huh? 15, why?" Fasttrack replied. "Wow, really? You just don't look like the typical teenager, even with your mutation-type quirk," Ingenium said with a hint of surprise. Fasttrack blushed slightly. "Well, it's actually a transformation-type quirk. I don't always look like this. My other transformations are even more drastic." "Transformations? You can take on more than one form?" Ingenium asked, intrigued. Yeah. My quirk lets me transform into different forms with other abilities," Fasttrack explained. "I see." Ingenium nodded. "So, I take it you haven't fully embraced your speed yet, huh? Going faster will also affect your techniques. You're really something." The pro put a hand to his chin, thinking. "You're definitely rough around the edges, but with your high speed, which I've never seen before, and the way your body moves so precisely and flexibly, you've got serious potential. And from what you said about having other transformations, your quirk can do it all." Fasttrack blushed at the praise. "Yeah, but I'm still getting used to my powers. I haven't even figured out how to turn back unless I exhaust myself. Plus, I don't think my speed would be that useful in most situations." "Not true, speed really matters," Ingenium said firmly. "Eh? Think about it. When people are caught in accidents, natural disasters, or villain attacks, what do you think is going through their minds? Someone save me? Close. They're thinking, someone save me quickly." Ingenium's voice grew more passionate. "When the world's turned upside down by some big emergency, very few people can stay calm. They get scared, nervous, like lost children. That's why it's my job to reach them even a second sooner, to give them that peace of mind. For heroes, the #1 factor is speed." Fasttrack listened intently, taking in every word. "In my opinion anyway," Ingenium continued with a smile. "But unlike most pros, you're not limited by just one aspect of your quirk. You can literally be the hero for any moment of crisis, the hero someone desperately needs. For example, if there's a fire, some heroes like Kamui Woods wouldn't be able to do much. But you could, unless you don't have a fire form." "I actually do. His name is Heat Blast." "Exactly my point," Ingenium said. "You can save anyone in any situation. I hope you remember that." Fasttrack looked at himself, realization dawning on him. He could help so many people if he mastered his forms. He could be the most versatile hero. Before he could finish, they both heard the distant shouts of some women. "Bring those back!" "Huh?" Both speedsters shared a look of surprise. "Someone help! Those creeps stole something!" "Perverts, get back here!" Ingenium smiled, ready for action. "Looks like we're needed." Fasttrack nodded eagerly. "Oh, right!" "Want to join me?" Ingenium asked with a grin. "Eh? You're pretty fast. How about we take down these villains together?" Fasttrack nodded, and Ingenium smirked. "Okay, keep up, rookie." The pro hero blasted off, leaving the boys stunned. "What? Expecting a countdown or something? Better start running," Ingenium teased. Fasttrack immediately followed, matching his speed as they arrived at the scene. 3 individuals wearing purple costumes were there, one of them holding panties. The scowl of the women nearby made it clear what had happened. "Give those back, you perverts!" "Hey, it's Ingenium!" one of the women yelled. The 3 culprits turned, their expressions turning to fear. "Ingenium protocol!" one of them shouted. Suddenly, purple spheres flew from the bushes, sticking to the ground. Ingenium took a step forward, but accidentally stepped on one of the spheres. "Hey!" He realized he couldn't move. The perverts took off, stuffing the stolen underwear into a bag. Fasttrack, using his incredible speed, darted forward and snatched the bag from them. He opened it, his face wrinkling at the sight of the stolen undergarments. "Hey, those are ours," one of the perverts protested. "Yeah, we stole them fair and square. We earned them." A voice from the bushes yelled, "We agreed to split them 50-50. "No, they're not." Fasttrack shot back, dodging as they tried to pelt him with more purple spheres. With ease, he dodged every attack, moving in a blur. Meanwhile, Ingenium managed to free himself, moving swiftly to knock out all three perverts with quick strikes. Fasttrack then rushed to the bushes, hoping to find the mysterious person who had been throwing the spheres, but they had already escaped. He was about to search for them when Ingenium called out, "Hey, kid, how about you find some rope so we can tie these guys up?" Fasttrack ran off and quickly found some rope, handing it to Ingenium. The pro hero tied up the perverts, who were now fast asleep. "Hey, kid, I still don't know your name," Ingenium said, looking at him curiously. "Oh, Izuku Midoriya," Fasttrack said. Soon the women ran over, showering Ingenium with thanks, completely ignoring Fasttrack. "Thank you, Ingenium. You were amazing. And so dreamy," one of them gushed. "Hey, I helped too, you know," Midoriya groaned, his head hanging in disappointment. As the perverts were tied up and the stolen undergarments returned, a beeping sound came from the Omnitrix, and Fasttrack transformed back into his regular self. "Huh? So that's what you usually look like? A little plain," Ingenium teased. "Yeah, I get that a lot," Midoriya replied, unfazed. "Ahem." A girl with vines for hair stepped forward, bowing politely. "Thank you for retrieving my undergarments. Those vermin should be ashamed. I'll pray for them. Thank you both." Midoriya was too flustered to respond, but Ingenium took charge. "Oh, don't worry about it. It's what heroes do." As the girl walked away, Ingenium reached into his armor and pulled out a card. "Here," he said, holding it out to Midoriya. Midoriya's eyes widened in disbelief. "You have real potential, kid. I can see you making it big one day. If you ever want to work with us, the Ida Family Hero Agency, we'd be happy to have you. We believe in winning the day through teamwork." Midoriya looked at the card, his eyes brimming with tears. This was the first time a hero, aside from All Might, had recognized him. Overwhelmed with emotion, he took the card with shaking hands. I won't let you down," he promised. The pro chuckled before blasting off with a wave goodbye, as he stared at the card with a smile. Itsuka Kendo wiped the sweat from her brow as she took a shortcut home. She'd been warned that her usual route was risky. Perverts and some scuffles with speedsters like Ingenium had been reported. Still, after a long training session at her dojo, she wasn't in the mood for trouble. None of the boys at the dojo had given her a real challenge today, too scared of being beaten by a girl or too prideful to fight her seriously. As she walked, she felt the familiar weight of her gym bag slung over her shoulder and the coolness of the towel draped around her neck. "Hey boys, look what we found." Kendo paused, turning her head to see 4 men staggering toward her, reeking of alcohol. Their eyes leered over her sweat-drenched figure in her gym clothes. She had just been minding her own business, taking a sip from her water bottle, but these guys clearly had other plans. "It's our lucky day, boys," one of them slurred, grinning. "That sweaty body's turning me on already." Kendo felt her blood start to boil. "Off," the leader chuckled, licking his lips. "I'm gonna enjoy breaking you and making you my personal toy." Her eyes narrowed, her hand tightening around the bottle. "Last warning. Leave me alone or you're all gonna be eating through a straw." The men laughed harder, clearly thinking she was bluffing. One of them, the leader, took a step closer. "Cute, tough girl act, princess, but don't call me princess." Before she could crack her knuckles and teach them a lesson, another voice rang out. "Leave her alone!" Kendo and the men turned to the source, expecting some tall, muscular guy ready to play the hero. But instead, it was a scrawny boy with a mess of green hair. He looked nervous, yet determined as he stood between her and the men. Kendo frowned. "This is supposed to be my hero? Some plain-looking kid?" She didn't need help, and this wasn't the white knight she expected anyway. The 4 thugs broke into laughter again, the leader wiping away a tear. "Get lost, shrimp. We've got business with her." Izuku's legs were shaking, but he stepped forward, taking a deep breath. "I said, back off." The laughter stopped, and the leader's expression darkened. His fist coated itself in jagged rocks as he sneered. Looks like we've got ourselves a hero, boys. Let's teach him a lesson, then make him watch. Fine idea, the leader agreed, as he cracked his knuckles and charged at the green-haired boy. Kendo sighed, ready to step in and save this reckless kid. But to her surprise, the boy dodged the attack, swift and precise. His counterpunch was even more shocking. It landed square on the thug's jaw, knocking him out cold. I did it! Izuku gasped, staring at his hand in disbelief. But the victory was short-lived. One of the other thugs took advantage of his distraction, delivering a hard right hook to Izuku's face, breaking his nose and sending him backwards onto the ground. Idiot, Kendo muttered, having seen enough. Before the other 3 thugs could react, she exploded into motion. The first thug swung a punch at her, but Kendo ducked, grabbing his wrist. With a sharp twist and a pivot on her heel, she flung him over her shoulder, sending him crashing into the asphalt. He didn't even have time to groan before he was out cold. The second thug, now fully aware of the danger, charged at her, but Kendo sidestepped smoothly. She drove her elbow into his ribs, doubling him over, then delivered a swift spinning kick to the side of his head. The man's body hit the pavement with a dull thud. The last thug hesitated, his eyes wide with fear, but Kendo didn't give him time to act. She advanced on him with lightning speed, weaving through his clumsy punches with ease. With a swift series of palm strikes, she disarmed him, then landed a knee straight to his solar plexus. He collapsed, gasping for air, before Kendo finished him off with a roundhouse kick that sent him sprawling across the alley. Izuku, still holding his stomach from the earlier punch, stared in awe at Kendo. She had dispatched the remaining 3 thugs in a matter of seconds, barely breaking a sweat. She glanced down at him, clearly unimpressed by his attempt to help. "You all right?" she asked, hands on her hips. Izuku, with a bloody nose and wide eyes, managed a nod. Yeah. Yeah, you were amazing! I've never seen anyone fight like that! Izuku exclaimed, his eyes wide with admiration. How can someone be that strong? Kendo smiled at him, her demeanor relaxed. Thanks. It was just a little martial arts, but I really didn't need your help. Thanks anyway. Izuku felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him as he scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I guess I didn't do much. I just thought you could use some help. Why do I always have to make things so awkward? Kendo assessed him thoughtfully. He's pretty plain, not really my type, she considered. But those bruises tell me this isn't his first fight. He probably didn't win most of them, though. She walked over to her gym bag and pulled out a pamphlet, scribbling something down. Hey, Izuku Midoriya, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Itsuka Kendo, she replied, looking at him straightforwardly. Listen, you look like the type who attracts a lot of trouble, so here. She handed him the pamphlet with a small smile. Izuku stared at it in confusion. A dojo? He asked, trying to process the information. Yeah, my grandpa runs a dojo nearby. If you want, maybe you can train or something. A dojo? Learning some martial arts could really expand my fighting style, especially if I can use them in my transformations. He began to mumble to himself, excitement bubbling up inside him. Wait, I hope I'm not creeping her out. Kendo raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh, you have a transformation-type quirk, too. Izuku snapped out of his muttering, surprised by her interest. Yeah. I'm still learning about it. Talking to someone with a transformation quirk could really help me. I could probably learn how to transform back. Cool. If you do choose to come to the dojo, we can trade transformation secrets. You know, scratch your back, scratch mine, that kind of thing. Izuku nodded eagerly, but then glanced at his phone, panic rising. Oh, I gotta go. Bye, Kendo. By the way, the number on the pamphlet is mine. Text me if you want, she called out as he turned to leave. Izuku ran down the street as Kendo waved goodbye to the strange kid. As Izuku made it to the train as he was heading to Mustufu Prefecture, he looked at the pamphlet with a smile as realization soon dawned on him. To talk to a girl. He looked at the pamphlet looking at the number. I got a girl's number. Midoriya's face turned completely red as he laughed, which unfortunately creeped out the bystanders.